But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. We think we are those ones who will do those great things, soaring like eagles, running and walking and not fainting until we fulfill the purposes of God in our time and in our season. It's interesting because we had been praying and trusting God for a church plant in this area. Actually, at that point, we had several options. Initially, we actually thought we'd plant in Kitengela or somewhere on Mombasa Road. All we knew is that we needed a second church. And I remember one time I actually took leave intentionally, intending to identify a place where we could plant a church. I was tired. I'd been running almost for several weeks just looking for different venues. And then one day, I ended up here because I knew this place. It was called Harry Square. I was actually looking for food, so I came to have lunch. And somewhere between the time I ordered and before my food came, as I was waiting, it's like I heard a voice asking, why not here? And it was almost startling, so I looked up. I was seated at what we call the middle deck in that area. It was the restaurant area. And I looked at the space, I looked around at the people who were seated around me, and then I remembered where I'd parked my car, ample parking, and suddenly I thought, of course, this is a no-brainer. This would be the ideal place to plant a church. In other words, for us, as we think, it's plug and play. You know, there was a stage, you know, there is a sitting area, there's a large compound, there's parking, there are, you know, good bathrooms. So what's not to like? And so suddenly I realized this is the place. I called back the waiter and I asked him to call the manager for me. And I asked him, you know, would you be willing to hire out this place to me on a Sunday between, at that point I was requesting between 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock. Because I thought to myself, this is ideal to do a setup at 9, do a service at 10, run for 2 hours, 12 o'clock we are done, we sat down, by 1 o'clock we are out. I even told him, you know, afterwards we'll give you business because people, after they do church, they go and eat, and you have a restaurant here. So we'll even add to your business. So I made the formal request to him at the time, and he couldn't give me an immediate response at that time. And later on, he went to contact maybe the more senior manager, and then eventually the owner. And that's how the conversation began about this location. Well, I must go back to where we, you know, after we planted. I must say this was one of the most incredibly fast-growing congregations I guess I'd ever seen, you know, in terms of planting. And I used to say that what took us in the city 3 to 4 years, it took us about a year to do here in this city. So there was a lot of favor from God. So we planted the church. It grew to huge numbers. I think in the first year we were doing over 500 people, and we were always playing catch up. We started doing missions. We did medical missions. We brought Full Circle over here. So it was a wonderful, powerful community. Like we all know, out of the blues, you know, when we were growing and looking into the skies and reaching for the stars, all of a sudden, COVID hit.
That effective Friday,
the NAC has directed
there will be a
the suspension of all church
to 5 a.m.
mosques.
In light of the above, we met and decided on the following. All the worship services, the 2 here in Ruaka, the 3 in campus, plus all the youth ministries, etc., have been transitioned to our live stream platform, which will air at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. And my goodness, I mean, everything shut down. You all know that, you know, for the first time in our history, churches could not meet. We couldn't congregate for fellowship. And that was an incredible challenge for all of us. We didn't know what the future would be like. This was uncharted waters. I think there was fear, genuinely, if you'd ask. There was real fear. We didn't know whether we will ever get out of here. Remember, there was all kinds of talk about how many people would die and how we could no longer fellowship with each other. We couldn't visit each other. Hotels were closed. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And just thinking together with the pastors and talking about what the future of the church holds, that was the greatest, I wouldn't even call it a challenge, it was the greatest nightmare. But guess what? God is God. And right now, with hindsight, we can talk about the church growing through times of difficulties and challenges and even persecution. But at that time, we really didn't know. We didn't know whether that was going to be the end. But guess what? God, through His Spirit, through His grace and conversations that we had here with the pastors, we began to innovate. And we realized that the future will belong to those who will be creative, bold, and courageous. So we had to trust God for the future. And we began new programs. You all remember what we did in the online platform. We started different programs, Tuesday Connect for City, Homescapes. We did prayers online. We did the Wednesday program where we bring professionals to talk about the challenges that we were facing. And somehow we were able to emerge out of that COVID season actually a stronger and maybe in many ways a much more courageous church, to know that we could face the future because God was holding our hand. For people that are emerging out of the kind of challenges that we have, I can say that we have nothing but confidence about the future. I mean, the Lord has clearly spared us for a reason. And for that reason, we are not afraid to face the future. Number one, we know that there will be a future. Not like before when we thought this was it. It was the end. We are thinking that we are going to grow a lot more. So we are thinking about stretching into new territories. Churches like Ruaka now, we know we've come of age. So Ruaka here needs to be thinking about planting another church. And so one of the conversations we are having with the leadership here is that we will be the ones to plant the Roiro Church. And this will be the base from which Roiro will be launched. So yeah, we are going to grow. We are going to plant other churches. The Kisumu conversation is still on. And so we are hoping to have secured the land, God willing, by January or starting in January. But we are thinking that we are going to acquire the land, and then we're going to pace ourselves as to when we're going to plant Kisumu. But yeah, we have Diani too, and we want to establish the congregation in Diani. There are already people meeting. They are excited about the future. That's their church, and we want to establish that land so that it's a place that our people can always go to and know that we have a good voice and a representation in that place. In the near future, yes, we will do, I think after we do Kisumu, we will come down to Eldoret. Nakuru is now a city, so that's on our target too. And I think the future is going to be incredibly exciting. We are riding a wave of growth and God's favor, and we want to take advantage of every opportunity that God gives us. We want the authentic voice of Mamlaka Hill Chapel spreading the gospel as it was originally meant to be in every major city and town in this country.